ASMR Retro Forever. Alright guys, I wasn't gonna do this video, but since I got a pretty good response on my Nightmare on Elm Street ranking video, I figure I'll go ahead and do the Friday the 13th films rankings. And remember, this is just my opinion. If you have a different opinion, that's perfectly fine, and I'd like to hear about it in the comments. And if, my opinions are always changing, so this is just my current opinion on the subject. Alright, so this time around, I'm gonna go from my least favorite Friday movies to my favorite. So I believe there's about 11, not including the remake here. So we start off with number 11. And that would be Jason X, which came out in 2001. And I don't have too much to say about this one because I think I could only stomach to watch it once. And not because it was gory or I don't know, probably it was gory, but just because it was a terrible movie. Very terrible. Basically, Jason goes to space and he turns into a robot on one part or something. All I remember is a very low budget feel to the movie, and it just didn't feel like a Jason movie. You know what I mean? But there is one really cool part that I remember where he kills one person by putting their head into this vat of liquid nitrogen or something, and their head freezes, and then he just smashes it against the counter or something like that. That's a pretty cool kill, almost worthy of watching the movie, almost. But you could just look it up on YouTube if you really want to. So yeah, that is definitely my least favorite, and I would say I hate this one. I don't think I hate any of the other Friday the 13th or Jason movies, but I actually hate this one. So then again, I only watched it once, maybe twice, and that was a long time ago. So anyway, we go to number 10. This is a long title. Jason goes to hell. Because they're writing smaller here, the final Friday. The final Friday, which came out in 1993. And that's pretty amazing because I believe Jason X came out after this one. There's nothing in between. And you could see this one came in 93 and 2001, so it's a pretty long gap in between Jason movies. But yeah, I don't hate this one, but I don't like it either. Again, it doesn't feel like a Jason movie or a Friday movie. I didn't like the concept, and it's gonna be spoilers by the way. But I didn't like the concept of Jason's heart or whatever that creature was that comes out of his body and goes into other people's bodies. So basically, kind of possesses other people's bodies. I don't like that concept for Jason. And because of that, he's barely in the movie. He's in the beginning a little bit, and then he gets revived into his own body at the end. But in between, it's always he's in someone else's body. And I don't know, I want to see Jason, right? But on the plus side, the gore and the kills are fantastic. Probably the best of the series. And I would definitely say it's worth watching for that. One kill in particular I remember is, I can't even explain much of it, but two adults are in a tent doing adult things, and Jason kills one of them just rips their body in half with this spike thing. I don't know what it is, but it's just so fantastically done. Very disturbing and gory, but definitely a shocker of a moment. It's also cool to have the Necronomicon in this movie, although I don't believe that's what they call it. And if I remember correctly, there's also another prop from Evil Dead which is, I think the thing that that girl stabs him with at the end to kill him. Wasn't that in Evil Dead 2? I could be mistaken. And then the other cool thing is when he dies at the end, you just see Jason's mask in the sand, and then Freddy's glove comes up out of the sand and like pulls him down to hell, and he laughs or whatever. That was like, whoa, that was a big deal. And that was supposed to lead into Freddy versus Jason, but of course it took many years for that to happen. But anyways, that's what I feel about that movie. Okay, now we go to number 9 on the list. Friday the 13th. Which is it? Okay, make sure I get it right here. Part 5 dot new beginning. Okay, and that was 1985. Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. I think a lot of people will agree that they don't like this one very much, and again, I don't hate it, but I understand why a lot of people don't like it. Spoiler alert: Jason is not Jason in this movie. Basically, like there's like this, I don't know if you call it a halfway house or some kind of home for people with mental health issues, and then one of the people living there gets killed by another one of the people living there, and then the paramedic that shows up just happens to be the dad of the guy who died. So the dad becomes Jason, but you don't find that out until the end of the movie. You just think it's Jason, right? Reborn somehow. I didn't really like that concept. Of course, again, I wanted to be Jason when I'm watching a Jason movie, but it just, they had different ideas, I guess. They were supposed to, I think, because Tommy Jarvis's character's in it, and I think he was supposed to become the new Jason at the end of the movie, but they scrapped that idea. So, but at the same time, it does still feel like a Jason movie. It's just disappointing that the ending worked out the way it did, and I'd still watch that one over Jason Goes to Hell or Jason X any day. So, but yeah, so that loses major points because, again, it's not actually Jason Voorhees. Okay, let's go to number 8. I think people might disagree with this one being so low on the list. Friday the 13th, which came out in 1980. Yeah, so this is the original, which, it's okay, but once again, spoiler alert, Jason is not the killer, it's his mother. So again, you don't know what the killer is until the end. It's supposed to be a big shocker, which it is, But it's just not that interesting to me because it's not Jason doing the killing kind of thing. He makes a brief appearance, might be a dream, might not be at the end. Which is the best part of the movie. That was very well done. But again, it is kind of like a very slow-paced stalker slasher kind of thing, which the kills are very well done, but it doesn't hold my interest as much as a lot of the other movies, so that's why it's lower on the list. It's very rare that I'm like, I want to watch the first Friday movie, you know what I mean? Okay, now we're going to number 7, lucky number 7. Get some luck on Friday the 13th here. And this came out the very next year, 1981. Oops, I forgot to write. This is part 2. Forgot to write that in there. And I guess the reason I forgot to write that in there is because it's so similar to the first one. Basically, the main difference is that this time Jason is the killer and he's an adult. Somehow he had a growth spurt in one day, but anyway. So yeah, this is better only in that it's Jason this time. But for the most part, it's the same movie, very slow-paced. was just waiting around to get killed, kind of thing. So, not too much more to say beyond that. And he doesn't have his mask yet. He's wearing like a potato sack on his head or something like that. So, loses some points for that. Okay, number 6. Friday the 13th, part 8. Friday the 13th, part 8. Jason takes Manhattan, and that is, let's squeeze it in here, 1989. I think a lot of people hate this one a lot, which I don't hate it at all. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's underrated. It doesn't deserve as much hate as it gets, but I get why. It's called Jason Takes Manhattan, but most of it takes place in a boat. It should be called Jason Takes a Cruise. But even the scenes that are filmed in Manhattan, it's most of it's actually filmed in Vancouver, and there's only 1 or 2 shots where they're actually there. But you know what? I don't mind it because I don't really care where Jason's killing people. As long as he's killing people, that's what we want to see. As sick as that sounds. And being on a boat is kind of creepy because you're in an enclosed environment. There's really nowhere to run. It's kind of like Alien, right? You're on this vessel, this big vessel, and there's a killer loose, slowly stalking, killing people one by one, and you don't know what to do about it because he could be hiding around any corner. I think that's a pretty good idea, and it worked for me. In a big city, you have so many places you could run and hide and stuff like that. Like, how's Jason gonna find you? I mean, yeah, yes, teleportation power supposedly, but I don't know. I don't mind it. And although ironically, one of my favorite scenes is when they're actually in Times Square, I think, and Jason's walking down the street, and of course there's people everywhere, and you got these punks like listening to their big ghetto blaster boombox thing, and then Jason it's in his way, so he just kicks the radio and it goes flying, and the punks are like, "Hey man, what are you doing?" or whatever they say, and Jason just turns around and lifts up his mask and shows them his face, and they're like, "Oh, okay man, okay, sorry man," and they take off. I thought that was like hilarious and well done. But the ending's ridiculous, where they're in the sewer, and apparently in New York, at midnight, the sewer fills with toxic waste. I just always thought that was like the most ridiculous thing. And then I think that's how Jason dies, and then he reverts to a kid or something. I don't know, it's kind of weird. The ending was really weird. So it loses some points for that, but again, I don't really have a big problem with this one, and I don't mind watching it once in a while. Okay, then there's this one that, similar to the nightmare list, I didn't know if I should put it on here, but I'll just put it here for completeness' sake. Freddy versus Jason, and this came out in 2003. And I won't really say anything about it because I already talked about it in the nightmare ranking video. Okay, going on to number 4. Getting close here to number 1. So we have Friday the 13th, part 3, and this came out in 1982. I mean, technically speaking, it's not a great movie, but the kills are very well done in this one. Yeah, they had the stupid 3D gimmick, which, unless you're seeing it in the theater, back in the day, then you can't really experience nowadays, as far as I know. But the kills are very well done. It's surprisingly gory compared to most of the other ones. Maybe the only more gory one is Jason Goes to Hell. Some of the kills are just ridiculously over the top, but just really very well done. Not over the top in meaning that it looks fake, but just well done anyways, and very brutal. this is where he finally gets his iconic Jason hockey mask. So, this is finally Jason in the full form, more or less, that we know and love today. So, gets a lot of props for that in my book. Okay, number 3 is Friday the 13th, part 7. The New Blood. And that came out in 1988. Now, I was gonna put this lower on the list, but meaning like higher on the list in a sense, you know what I mean? Because unfortunately, pretty much all the gore and the kills were pretty much completely cut out. You don't see anything, and I mean anything, which is a bloody shame. I don't know why they hacked it to pieces so much. Obviously, they have the people who censor this stuff. It wasn't the filmmaker's decision, but I think they went way too far on this one in the censorship. If the gore was in there, maybe this might be number 1. I don't know. But the reason I put it number 3 instead of like number 5 or whatever is because Jason looks friggin' fantastic in this movie. I believe it's the first one that Keen Otter plays. That's the name, right? Keen Otter plays Jason. He looks amazing. The makeup was amazing. You see like all the damage on his face, like, and on the mask, and like you see his like spine sticking out of his back. He just looks badass as hell. So that's what I want in Jason. He's just gotta look like a badass and just cool. He's gotta be cool to just look at. You know what I mean? So they nailed that for sure in this movie, and that's my favorite aspect of this one for sure. Okay, number 2 would be Friday the 13th. The final chapter. And that came out in 1984. So this is actually the 4th one, but they didn't put that in the title. But it's the final chapter, so it was supposed to be the final Friday the 13th movie, but they kept doing well, so they just kept making more. This, for a long time, this was my favorite. I'm not sure why even. I think it's because I grew up with this one the most. It was on TV often, and I would watch it. It was probably the first one that I ever saw. But yeah, it's just as Corey Feldman's character plays Tommy Jarvis, which is the first, I think, recurring character essentially in the movie, other than Jason, of course. And yeah, I guess it's another typical Jason movie, but it was very well done, and the effects were well done. I believe Tom Savini worked on this one as well as the first one. And who couldn't forget the unforgettable way which Jason quote-unquote dies, where you have Tommy Jarvis shaves his head and tries to make himself look like, Jason when he was a kid. And then he just repeatedly just hacks him to bits with a machete, and like you see the part where he falls and he falls on the knife and it just slices through his eye or whatever. It's pretty insane. So yeah, but funnily enough, I don't remember a ton of the movie. I haven't seen this one in a while, but I just remember liking this one a lot. So I think 2nd place is suitable for this one. Okay, we're now down to number 1. And by process of elimination, you can probably figure it out, but it is Friday the 13th, part 6, and the subtitle is Jason Lives. I love that subtitle. And this is 1986. So this is the first one, or people say, wait, is it this one? Or the 4th one? No, I guess the 4th one, he would be a zombie. I don't know, it doesn't matter. But anyway, anyways, I really enjoy this one a lot. You have Tommy Jarvis's character coming back, but not played by Corey Feldman, played by somebody else. But just the first 10 minutes alone, the intro is fantastic. It's like its own mini film. Tommy goes to the cemetery to dig up Jason's body and make sure he's dead. And then he stabs him with this metal rod thing, and then lightning zaps it, and he of course, that brings him back to life. And he gets out of the grave, and he looks just badass as hell. And then what happens? He kills Tommy's friend, and then Tommy's like, "Oh crap, I'm out of here." And then you see Jason put his mask on, and he turns to the camera. It's like, "Yeah, Jason's back." And then it cuts to that James Bond parody where he's like walking and slices towards the camera, and all that blood spurts or whatever. It's just such a treat, such a well done intro. Gets me totally in the mood to watch Friday the 13th movies, to be honest. And another thing I like about this movie is that the structure of the movie is more interesting. Like, it actually has a plot. It feels like a lot of the other ones are just like, okay, let's just sit around and wait for Jason to kill us one by one. This one starts, Tommy, he accidentally revives Jason. Okay, he screws up, but he's going, he goes to the town. He's trying to warn the sheriff. He's like, we gotta do something. And then, like he's on a mission kind of thing, and instead of just waiting around and people getting picked off one by one. I mean, that does happen, but so it's far less boring than any of the other ones. It's not boring, I would say. Jason looks pretty cool in this one. He's actually played by I think 3 different actors in this one, but I like the scenes where he's like, as people are playing paintball, and you see Jason like power walking through the forest, which is like really creepy, and then he kills them, and he does like a triple decapitation on one person. So really cool kills like that. A little bit over the top, but not too over the top, and yeah, it's just a lot of fun. It moves at a good pace. Another one of my favorite scenes is there's one guy. Remember I was watching. I'm like, this guy looks familiar. He's like one of the counselors. I'm like, this guy looks like John Travolta, and I looked it up, and it's like his nephew or his cousin or something like that. I'm like, holy cow, they look very similar. But anyways, the scene where he's driving that camper with his girlfriend, and then Jason's, and he's listening to Alice Cooper, Teenage Frankenstein, which is perfect for this movie. And then Jason's in the washroom, like manhandling his girlfriend, and then he like pushes her head through the, I don't know what it is, the mirror or something like that, which is a cool effect. And then he stabs the guy in the head, and then the trailer flips over, and you see Jason like come out on top or whatever. It's just such a cool scene. I love that kind of stuff. So it's just a very well made movie, goes at a good pace, entertaining. So yeah, that is my current favorite. That's my current rankings of the Friday the 13th movies. If you have disagree, which you probably do, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it relaxing, and I'll see you guys next time.